Yeah, so I'm going back to the vault now, but I heard about the DSW apprenticeship program through our learning and development manager, or whatever the equivalent title was back in 2008 or 9. No, 2010 it was in Peterborough, Ontario. And that was my colleague Rick Lucas at the time. So he shared at maybe a staff connections day about the program, kind of its merits, and to help developing kind of professionals in the developmental services sector. And yeah, it piqued my interest right away, just with some of the subsidies that they were providing at the time, and I believe they still do. Yeah, and seemed like an accessible way to kind of grow in the field. So that's what piqued my interest back. Yeah, I think I was pleasantly surprised at first how sort of relevant it was to the work I was already doing. I was working in a home where we were providing some supports to folks with some behavioral complexity. And I remember, one of the earliest courses I took was around behavior supports, positive behavior support, something of that nature. And as we had, clinicians and kind of multidisciplinary teams that I was working with as a direct support professional at the time, I remember going, oh my goodness, like the light bulbs are going off around whether it's biopsychosocial model or positive, like I said, positive behavior supports, positive reinforcement, things like that. I just remember being so relevant. So that was a surprise to me. I thought it'd be more kind of maybe theoretical when I was going into it, based on some of my prior learning, but I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised by that. And then the other thing I would say is I was amazed actually at the subsidies that were available for the courses. So kind of and seeing the discounted rate for the courses as I went through was very surprising and made it really accessible to me. So that was really excellent. Surprised me about the program. What worked well about the program was, I think, the fully distance learning model was really helpful for me as someone who was working full time at the time of enrolling. And I think the ability to, there were still professors who were available to connect with via distance, but they worked really well with me in that kind of medium. And it was just flexible, right? If I have a 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, which I often did, I could get up, at my regular time and then spend a few hours on the coursework before going into work. And maybe if I had a 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift, I could do a little bit after work, so it was just very flexible that way, right? It wasn't like I had to tune into to class offerings at specific times. So yeah, that was quite good. I would say the support that was offered was quite good from what I recall. As I said, the professors were available to us when they had, I remember a medication course that we did for medication administration. They had lots of like practical kits they'd send out that we could use to test some of our skills at home. So almost like a lab from home. So that was really, really great. And just the way that, yeah, they provided the resources and the coaching as needed throughout. The program was super helpful. I mean, I came into the field kind of unexpectedly in my career journey, and I had been thinking my career would go in a different direction. But as I got into the field, found a passion for it, and maybe even a calling to it, this program really helped give me a solid foundation for what it meant to be an effective DSP. And then I'll say, because of the breadth of kind of content in the course, it also really equipped me to become a program manager overseeing different support locations with formerly Christian Horizons, now Caris Disability Services. Because my scope as a DSP may have been with this population, with a lot of the course offerings and what I learned through the program. I had a much broader overview of kind of what's out there in terms of supports and approaches and some of the philosophies that underpin those things. So I think that really helped me as my career kind of developed over the years with Caris as a program manager, and even as I kind of worked into middle management and now as an executive director, having that foundation has really supported me in these roles, even with my continuing education, just being able to pass the learning through the filter of of what it means to be a direct support professional. And then now in a leadership capacity, what it means to support those teams, right? And equip them to do that work really well. So yeah, and I'd say things like the philosophy of supports continue to impact that to this day in my work and how I work with to lead my team. So I think the programs, yeah, was very valuable to just kind of sum that up for the skills as a DSP, for the philosophy in leadership in the sector, and just to kind of create a really great breadth of knowledge for how the sector works and how we provide really great supports to people.